email. 2 seconds. Adult ed, I know member Fish, you normally attended the adult ed one. That one virtual. We're actually, because technically puts that graduation together.
I'll do that again.
Yeah, but we're still waiting to find out what that one's going to be. So as soon as I get information on that one, I will let you know. But again, on that one, that's a GP ceremony, not an ESD ceremony. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of say over that one. I don't know where it is. Yeah, my recollection tells me that his windover was at 5 o'clock, but I'll double check that and get back to you to guarantee what time that is. And as we're talking, I'll keep looking. So if I pop back in, what's going on?
Perfect.
All right, and Chris, did you say Spring Creeks was at 8:15?
Me in the past was.
So that is what they have down for Spring Creek High School. There is it needs to be dark for Spring Creeks to work because of the video system that they're going to have set up. If it's too much sun out there, then you're just looking at a blank screen, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having all the kids' pictures on it. So that's why theirs is later.
What's helped me in the past is send that list to the principal and have them email us where, when, and for each one, because it's hard to remember after that unless you have it written down.
And absolutely, that's why it was important that we had the decision made tonight, so I can communicate with them so they can reach out to the specific member that will be attending their ceremony.
And if the times don't work out, if they're not set in stone as far as starting at 7, if they could start at 6, I could probably get Wells and Spring Creek. Sorry, I think I was just on mute. I just said if Wells isn't set in stone as far as 7 o'clock, if they can do a 6 o'clock graduation, I can probably get Wells and Spring Creek. Can you ask about that, Mr. McInerney, if they can do a 6 or if they're totally set at 7?
Absolutely, I can absolutely look at that. And while we've been talking, I found West Windovers. They will be starting at 6 o'clock Windover time. So that's where the 5 o'clock in my head came from, because 5 o'clock our time. So that may be doable. Tight if you try to hit them both, though. But
I thrive under pressure.
All right, so I'm just going to.
And I have a left foot.
So just to make sure, again, I've been taking notes. Member Dastra going to Spring Creek High School. Member Wines, Ira's going to Hawaii. Wines Candace going to Jackpot. Mr. Fish going to Carlin. Mr. Cooney to Elko High. Member Dickinson going to Mr. Zeisler, Elko High, and Wells. Is that the plan, or where we decide that's probably not going to work?
Probably won't work unless you think I can make it work.
Is that a helicopter?
I think I can make it work. I think I can make it work with Windover and Wells. So
Thanks, Tammy.
let's try to shoot for that.
Okay.
Sounds good. I will notify.
If you want someone to do the adult ed, I'll do that again this year too.
I have you down, Mr. Fish, and as soon as I get information on GDC's ceremony, I will know what that's going to look like. I have a feeling that one's going to be 100% virtual.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McInerney. Any other clarification or questions on that item? All right. We'll move on to item 3.1, our consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to say that we have some long-standing employees retiring in this group, and it would, I mean, it wouldn't be nice if we didn't say something about Lynette Davis and Deb Miller for their years of experience, and all of our people that are retiring, but especially those two. They've been with us for, I can't count that high, but quite a few years. So we want to give them congratulations.
I remember when Deb Miller went to work in Wells. I was in about the 5th grade.
All right, any other comments from the board?
It looks like we're going to need quite a few plaques this year for the retirees. And, you know, it's unfortunate that we're not able to do probably a lot of retirement parties, as these folks have devoted a lot of time and effort. It's been their life. So anything that we can do to thank them is totally appropriate.
We do have the plaques. Cassie keeps up on those, and I want to thank her personally for doing that, because she keeps track of all the retirements and resignations. So she stays on it, and we will get those out to all of those employees.
Thank you, boss.
All right, and yes, thank you for everybody that helps with that in general. And it is sad to see some of our old employees that have been around for a long time retire, but we wish them luck in their retirement. Any other discussion or questions on our consent agenda? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and our consent agenda is approved. Item number 4.1 is a report from our NASB director.
All right, we had a meeting last night, and it went on for quite a while. It was mostly about the budget. We've come in $55,000 under budget from what it was last year. The National School Board Association Conference canceled this year, but next year, it's in 2021, it's going to be in New Orleans on April 10th, 11th, and 12th. And NASB has a video out for school board candidates if they want to watch it. And if anybody's interested in it, I can get them contact with Deb and get that video out. Deb made it herself. The membership dues are going to stay the same. They've been the same for the last 3 years, and they're going to remain the same. The November conference is still on schedule at Harvey's in Tahoe. The big reason for it moving to Tahoe is a $13,000 savings for NASB. And a meeting the other night, Jeff Nevins from Virginia City is the new Region 3 NIAA rep. And tried to get Teresa in there, but it didn't work out. There's 12 counties represented in Region 3, and there was only 6 of us on the deal. But Jeff is the one that ended up with it, and he should represent rural counties well. He's from Virginia City, and his kids go to school there. So that is what we did last night. And I can entertain any questions if anybody's got them.
No questions from the board? All right, Ira, thank you for your continued work with NASB. Item number 4.2 is items from board members.
I was pleased to see this afternoon that there was steel on site for the Elko High School Science Building. So that's moving on, and looks like the construction site's not stalled out any at all. So
any other items from board members? All right, moving on to item 5.1 is our superintendent's report. Mr. Pearson.
Hello. We have a couple of reports tonight. As always, a construction report or update. I also included the Nevada Outdoor Science Annual Report. We have a partnership with them, Nevada Outdoor School, excuse me. We have a partnership with them where they go into classrooms and provide lessons and activities for our kids. So they were, Melanie is the director of that, Melanie Urquiagua. She was gracious enough to give us a annual report. Also wanted our team to give you some reports on curriculum updates, food service, special services. And with that, I will let them speak.
What do you want first, Mr. Pearson?
How about Jeannie Jackson?
Couldn't unmute myself. So elementary, we are looking at trying to do a overall math curriculum, looking at going to utilize the RPDP to help us look into Eureka Math for next year, for next fall, possibly. And since it's going to be we're a couple years out, most of our schools use Eureka Math. We have about six of them doing 100% already. So, and that's why we're kind of going that route. Some of them are at 50%. So we will be putting together a committee and going that route since it's online and free. That might be the best way to go so we can hopefully help our math scores. And since we've seen some success with our ELA, and we've had with our Read by Grade 3, I'd like to give a shout out to Melissa Gregory and our reading strategist with the help that they've been doing for the online component with the lessons they've been providing. It's optional for the teachers to be using, but they've been providing lessons for the teachers to use. They're small fragments, very repetitive, so parents can get used to what they're seeing. There's a weekly letter for the parents to use if the teachers want to. So they're able to use that, and it's using the Wonders curriculum. So anyway, that's coming from the elementary department.
Jeannie, are we going to catch the new superintendent up to speed this summer then on those initiatives?
Yes, and if she wants to change routes, then of course, then that's her doing. But you know, we haven't spent any money. So, but anyway, but yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But anyway, the schools are already doing Eureka. They've been doing, I did it when I taught in Spring Creek. So we just wanted something that most people are already doing. The majority of the district is using it. It's nothing new. I polled the principals of their teachers. Every school has it in their school already, except for, no, even Carlin does. They use iReady with the component of Eureka, but if the state pulls all their grants, then that iReady they won't be able to use their iReady. So other than that, just Owyhee is the only school that does not use any bit Eureka. So anyway, but other than that, everybody does to an extent. So it's nothing new for the teachers. I think every teacher, even if they don't use it, they've seen it. And so it'd just be a good route to go. There's 2 online programs that I know of, Eureka in illustrative or illustrative, either way you say it. But we were thinking when Mr. Pearson and I talked, and when I pulled the schools, and most of the schools were, if not 100%, 50%, it was just easier to stay with Eureka until the state lets us go in a different route. And especially since money is a factor. But yes, Dr. Robinson can veto, of course. Did you think I was going to say something else, Brian?
No, I was just wondering because I don't know if we need to, our district improvement plans, if we need to revise those soon, or how the board is involved in that process. Especially after reading her contract today, because there were some of those items in there.
When does she begin? Does her contract say that? Are y'all allowed to say when she starts?
I would assume July 1st, right?
The language in the contract is as soon as she is released from employment in her current district. And that will not be July 1st. It will be closer to August 1st, but we don't have a set date yet.
So then my question would be, are we allowed to contact her? Like, are you guys allowed to contact her? So like if we're making decisions with math like that.
I would say leave that up to Mr. Pearson. He is still in charge until the end of June. And I'd say carry on as you normally would. And unless the board feels differently, that's what I would recommend.
I agree.
Okay, then that's what I'll do, because our math scores, as y'all know, are not the greatest. So we are really struggling in math. So that's what Mr. Pearson gave me my task to do. So I started getting busy.
Jeannie, I have a question there. Does that also include the rural schools like Ruby Valley and Jigs and Tuscarora?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. McEnany, would you like to go now?
Absolutely. So to piggyback on Jack's as far as the curriculum update, I'll give you a quick peek behind the curtain on what's going on up at the state level. So currently, the state the state instructional materials adoption steering committee is going through the process of approving K-5 science as the first instructional material curricular area that they are allowing under the new ribbon adoption protocols. I know that we're all aware, and we've talked about it a lot, that the state flipped that whole process around, where they now pre-approve all curriculum and districts take books off of materials off of their list to then pilot within the individual district. So right now, again, like I said, K-5 science is going through that process. We have a 3-member committee made up of 3 teachers, an elementary, a middle, and a high school teacher that are all part of that rubric process at the state level. So that gives us a pretty strong voice, in addition to myself being on the state steering committee that created the rubric, which we have now given to the science adoption folks for their review. So we're very, very well spoken for in these committees. Good. The reality, and I know that certain members, again, following along with Miss Jackson, what she just said, we are desperate for math curriculum. we are also highly desperate for science curriculum. Both of those curriculums are in the same place. In fact, the science curriculum, because of the next gen standards, it's all needed for us. So as far as that goes, it was 6-1, half dozen to the other of what would work. When we were in the committee processes, I tried to push for and social studies to be the content areas that were adopted by the state. Unfortunately, I got outvoted by a district that lies in the deep south and a district that lies to the extreme west, who for some reason have more voice on that committee than we do. I know that's shocking, but that's kind of how it goes. Those districts were in high need of science. So social studies will be coming on the heels of that, because for the graduating class of 2022, the graduation standards have changed and economics is now a requirement, which has to be taken for the senior year. So that instructional material and curriculum base, the curriculum has already been approved by the state, and now they're just matching up instructional materials to meet the curriculum guidelines. So that's kind of where we are in that. I mean, with the Eureka map, that's a good way to go. Is that the reason that Hawaii doesn't use Eureka map was because they utilized a grant to purchase math instruction materials, and at that time Eureka map didn't meet the grant standard. I thought I remember what grant was, but that's why they're the only site that doesn't use Eureka map. So again, if there's any questions about instruction materials adoption as that goes, before I move on to a quick lunch update, I'm here to take them. All right, so hearing none, a quick lunch update. We serve district-wide since the closure close to 7,000 meals district-wide. We are continuing on. We received an extension from the Nevada Department of Agriculture. This was going to be a new contract year for us. Right before the closure, we were getting ready to go into negotiations with any food service provider that wanted to respond to our RFA. Because of the closure, that RFA was pulled because the state granted us a 1-year extension with current food providers, and they did that for the whole state. So we get Chartwell for 1 more year. We will continue into the summer with our SSO program, our summer service option. And right now the plan is to continue serving meals at all 7 of those sites, following the guidelines set forward by the state since the closure. So I'm very excited about that. Quick shout out to all the lunch service folks, because they are working their tails off, making sure the kids remain fed at all of those sites. So I'm pretty excited about that. Steve Armstrong and his crew are really doing a great job. And that's what I got.
I have a question for Todd. Does he have any idea how we're doing on recruitment for next year?
Crewmen as far as employees,
As far as teachers?
teachers, I will allow Mr. Smith to take that for us. Unless we lost Mr. Smith.
There you go. My internet's a little problematic this evening, but recruitment is going fine. We have numerous offers out on jobs at this point. Just because of the fact that everything's being done virtually everywhere, it's a little slower going than it normally is, but things are going fine. We still have some positions that are going to be difficult to fill, as they have been in the past, like school counselors, special ed teachers, things like that. But I think things are fine at this juncture in time. And we'll continue to work with site administrators and monitor any additional attrition that may occur.
Mike, I've had several people contact me about an English teacher at Wells High School. Is there anything in the works for an English teacher? Because like I say, lots of people have contacted me and have concerns about that.
Let's see. Wells, in talking to CJ over there, he has been able to rectify his schedule over there based on certifications that existing teachers have, and move some stuff around to where people who have that certification are going to take some of the classes, the junior high, and they're going to be able to cover it without hiring a position.
Okay, that's good to know they've got it covered. Thank you.
You bet.
Mike, have you heard anything from this? And Keith, could you mute your mic? I'm getting a lot of feedback from your open mic there. Mike, have you heard anything from the state that might help us to encourage buyouts next year or retirements? Any incentive packages?
So you're talking for fiscal 21, Brian?
Yeah, or even 2021.
Yeah, so I haven't seen anything come out for next fiscal. Obviously we already did the buyouts for FY20 for this year. But it's going to be interesting because the budget numbers that the governor is talking about are serious numbers that could lead to all kinds of things if things don't clear up. Based on Jerry's budget presentation, I think it's pretty evident that there's not discretionary money that can really help with cuts of the magnitude that Governor Sisolak is talking about. Now, whether the state, whether there's going to be federal aid to the states to, plug some of those holes, that I don't know. But if we don't get some federal help, it's going to be problematic at best. It will be significantly worse than the 2007 through 2010 scenario. And that's why, Teresa's question about the Wells English position, we went through one-on-one meetings with every school principal several weeks ago because
really
we're
need you to
pinned
take it.
in by the May 1st letter of intent deadline. And we worked collaboratively with those principals to tighten things up as much as possible, to find different ways of trying to save money through positional attrition without impacting programs for kids and things like that. And we actually were able to acquire about 45 positions. Now, that doesn't mean if things turn around here in the next, tomorrow or next month, that those positions can't be reactivated and filled. But, that's a decent start on the FY20 cut that we've already incurred. 45 positions is going to come out to be somewhere between $3.5 and $4.5 million in savings. And, those discussions were based on what do we need to do working together to achieve this for a 1-year deal. We're just looking at what can be done for FY21. And then with the idea being that things will turn back around and in FY22 we can do much as we did in the last recession and restore a bunch of stuff.
So they scrutinize probably the teacher to student ratios then at each school.
Yeah, and we asked them to scrutinize everything, Brian, not only certified, but all the unlicensed personnel, whether they be secretaries, custodial people, just the whole thing. And with the idea that, we know that people are willing to, I think, as long as they perceive that the pain is being, quote, shared, people are willing to do a lot to help when, our district gets into a bind. And so we need everybody to contribute from every sector of our employment group to make this happen. And they have to perceive that it's balanced, that we're not going to balance things on the backs of one job category.
And so when you mentioned that for those 45 positions, those were certified positions or combination of certified and classified?
No, those are the certified, and I don't have a count for you right now on the unlicensed, but again, we're looking at and these are only positions that are vacated through natural attrition, whether it's a resignation, a retirement, what have you. And so, every time we have a paraprofessional, for example, resign a position, we talk to the principal about, is there a way to provide services, continue services for kids without replacing that position? Same thing with a secretary if they leave, etc.
Mike, I'd sure like to see a detailed number of what we're looking at our next board meeting. And so the rest of the board can keep at least a bit of a touch on the pulse of where we're going, where we might be looking at some critical issues.
So, Jim, what would you like to see, just so I understand?
Just the numbers, specifically the numbers like you're saying there, and having the classified and other individuals that are in that group. So we are keeping pretty close tabs on exactly where we're at personnel wise.
Sure. One thing that is different when you talk unlicensed staff is they're not pinned in by a May 1st letter of intent. And so, the board probably knows this, but, unlicensed people come and go on a daily, weekly basis because they're not contracted employees. And so it's easier to get a handle on the licensed people because they're pinned in by a contract and a letter of intent date. The rest of the people, like I said, come and go on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so it's almost like a running count. It's hard to project when or how much turnover you're going to have in the unlicensed realm, because they can just decide, hopefully they give us a couple weeks notice, but they can just up and say, I'm leaving in a week or two. But I'll have some numbers for you so you can get an idea what's going on.
Thank you.
Sure.
So Mike, Brian already touched on the student to teacher ratio. And I know in some of our schools, we already had pretty big kindergarten classes. So if we're losing any kindergarten teachers or any lower elementary teachers, those class sizes are going to be looking pretty big. Has there been any discussion about, for a year or 2 years until we get recovered from this, going back to half-day kindergarten? to be able to help reduce those class sizes in the lower grades and potentially move some of those teachers around to some of the other lower grades?
You know, only the legislature could do that because as of now, it's state law that there's full day kindergarten. So that would have to be something that would come out of some initiative in a special session to relieve that and put it back to AM PM kindergarten. But we're trying to keep things pretty close to the thresholds that we've had in the past. It's funny. Maybe I'll provide you guys with the loading spreadsheet for class size reduction, and I think that would help you get a more of a bird's eye view of the district, because you can look at each school and each grade level and see what those loads are. Might be a lot easier than me trying to sort of explain one grade level to the board, because every school has different dynamics, and every school, because of the economies of scale, for example, at a larger school like a Mountain View, it's a lot different if you have attrition in kindergarten in a big school. When one teacher leaves, if you already had 7 teachers, it doesn't lower the number as much as you think it would. Or, it doesn't increase the number as much as you think it would. Whereas in a smaller elementary, if there's attrition in the kindergarten class, you're almost forced to replace the person, because it would turn class sizes into 35-1, for example. Whereas the Mountain View might go from 22 to 24.
Yeah, Mike, I think it'd be nice for the board to be able to see those numbers. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, if I can figure out how to do what Jerry did, and share a document over this thing, I think I could possibly do a decent job of explaining what it looks like.
Yeah, talk to Mac.
We'll get Mac to do some PD for you, Mike.
Okay, it'll take a lot of one-on-one.
Okay, Mr. Walls.
Okay, you can all imagine that the school closure, the impact on regular instruction of regular ed kids, it's that I believe that impact on some of our special populations has been even more severe and even more difficult, I think, to provide specialized services for some of those kids in this manner. So first off, I just, kudos to our teachers and our related service professionals who've been working on that and talking to parents about having parents help them with some of those services. So anyway, they've just been doing a great job, and I get emails and phone calls every day with just their concerns about not doing enough for my kids. So just kind of wanted to point that out. They really are doing a great job, and they're very concerned. That leads right into another set of services that's for my department that's been heavily impacted, that I just wanted to share with you. Our school psychologist assessment and our speech therapy assessments. Those are one-on-one assessments with kids. And with school closures, our schools are government buildings. Our government buildings are closed to the public, so we're not able to bring those kids in and do those assessments. It's had a huge impact, and I've been doing a lot of conversing with special ed directors in other districts, and we're not in any different boat than anybody else is. We're all kind of sitting in the same place and really kind of hoping and optimistic about the move to phase 2, and that hopefully phase 2 will, even if it is with some limitations, open up government buildings so we can start having kids come in and provide some of these assessment and individualized services. You can imagine how something like physical therapy or occupational therapy, how difficult that would be to do via virtual or distance learning. So on that note, those people, when we hit phase 2, those people we're probably gonna be working through the summer to try to get caught back up with some of those assessments and services for kids. Right now, our extended school year program and those services that go along with it, I am planning for that program to run as it normally does. Extended school year starts on June 29th and it extends through, I think it's July 23rd, if I remember right, July 23rd, 26th. And right now, like I said, I'm planning for that to run as normal in school buildings. It's not a huge population when you look at a school district with 10,000 kids. The buildings that we have ESY programs in, we generally use a handful of classrooms. Some buildings maybe only 1 or 2 classrooms. So I'm hoping that worst case scenario, and I'm planning that worst case scenario with ESY service for those kiddos involves me just using a few more people in a few more classrooms and a smaller student to teacher ratio. But we really need to touch base personally with those kids with some specialized needs, and that's just kind of where we're at right now. And like I said, I'm making plans for things to run as normally. It's much easier for me to make all those plans with staff and rosters and things like that, and change them a week before if I have to. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that the kids will receive ESY services normally this summer.
Thanks, Mr. Walls. And with that, I just I want to thank the district team as well, and that goes for every director and coordinator out there. You know, they've done everything we've asked and then some, and they're always available and ready to do whatever we need to get done. So I just want to thank all of them for what they're doing. So if there's no other questions, we can move on.
I have one, and I should have asked it earlier. Do we have any idea when kindergarten registration is going to happen and how it's going to happen?
So I can talk to that, and so can Mac Robinson. We're moving to a online registration format, and Mac, jump in, Mr. Mac Robinson, if you can give us some dates. I thought he told me sometime in June, but
we are supposed to be having our last call with Infinite Campus on the 10th. And that should be with the registrars and everything with training. So it'll be probably the week after that we go with kindergarten registration.
Awesome. I know people are getting anxious.
And that's the 10th of June.
yeah, we've gotten quite a few calls as well.
Since Tammy mentioned that, I was going to ask Mike this, but is the cutoff date for the age for entry into kindergarten, is that set by the district or by the state?
State.
Yeah, and Tammy, this is Jeannie.
I had one question.
I'll be putting the kindergarten registration, I'll be posting something tomorrow on our social media. And Mac was going to put it on the district's website. I would have done that this morning, but GBC had their student teaching graduation last night, and I put them on the district webpage today, or the social media today. And I wanted the kindergarten to have its own so it doesn't get lost. So it'll go on there tomorrow.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah. And y'all did a good job last night, Mr. Zeisler.
Thank you. We're glad that you and Chris could attend.
I just had one question for Mr. Kelly. Have we started yet on that project in Wells High School for the heat system?
Kickoff meeting was today. Everybody able to hear me on that?
I mean, I couldn't hear you.
The kickoff meeting was today.
He said the kickoff meeting was today.
So when does that mean actual construction is going to begin? Do you know?
They're starting to mow as we speak.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions from board members? Thank you to all of the directors for your reports. That's really helpful to have that right now. And thank you for all the work you're doing, just making everything continue to roll. Item number 6.1 is approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I had a question, Jerry, on the Elko County Treasury SB 551 for 70,000. Can you explain what that charge is for?
Yeah, it's for I'm pretty sure, it's for our cost with the county for the SROs, school resource officers.
That is an SRO expense. It comes directly out of the 551, which is a school safety grant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the two new SROs.
All right, any other questions from the board? Any abstentions or disclosures? I will disclose that I have a family member whose employer is listed on the accounts payable, so I will be abstaining as well. All in favor of approval of the accounts payable, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Sounds like the accounts payable are approved. Item number 7.1 is final opportunity for comment from the public. Mr. Cooney, do we have any public comment?
We have no public comment, Madam Chairman.
All right, thank you. Item number 8.1 is adjournment of the meeting.
I move
Move
we
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you. All right, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and we are adjourned. Thank you, as always, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.